Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. This video is going to be a series of conversations around certain points in the Becoming Your Own Banker book, where I am randomly choosing a person, randomly asking them to pick a page and then divulge their best takeaways from the details of the book. It's been a lot of fun fielding this conversation in this way, and I hope that you enjoy. Now, just to remind you, everybody that's on today's roundtable has had a one-on-one conversation with me, an interview. I would encourage you to learn about these fellas by going and watching their origin story in my interview series on the channel to get that background, to get that backdrop. But just because there are some new faces at the roundtable today, and just because some folks' interview hasn't yet been released in real time, let's just have a quick introduction, at least to the new faces here at the roundtable. So Will, this is your first time joining. How are you this morning? And if you would, just give the folks a real quick bio about who you are.
I'm Will Fullington, from Clovis, New Mexico, fairly new practitioner myself. Been doing this for in my own finances for about 3 years. Leaving the military here shortly, and wanting to share this with as many Christians and military members as I can, after seeing how powerful it is for me.
I appreciate that. And you've served a full career, so I appreciate that, sir. I love it. Everybody else has been here except Jonah. So Jonah, you're up next. I believe that everybody here, of course, knows you that's sitting down with you. But just in case somebody's seen you for the first time, quick bio, please.
Yeah, I'm Jonah Dew. I live in Greenville, South Carolina. Jesse and I are technically in the same building this morning. I do business with my brother, Jeremiah Dew. We are both actually NNI authorized practitioners and facilitators. So just in case you haven't gone to those trainings yet, you might be there and you might be being taught by me. Who knows? I don't know if I've got anything worth teaching, but someone thinks I do. Anyway, we've been doing infinite banking together for about a decade. I'm no good with numbers, so it could be 9 years in 11 months, or it could be 10 years and 3 months. I don't know, but it's about a decade. And I guess that's it. What else you want to know, Jesse?
No, well, just allow me to concur that for sure I've seen you from the front of a room, both presenting the concept to people that are brand new and also to other professionals in the space that are authorized IBC practitioners like myself. So there's immense value there. And of course, that's a big reason as to part of why I would like you to be in on today's conversation. So I wanted to underscore that. And of course, that's actually how I got to spend some in-person time with Will, was by going to a coaching academy that the NNI put on, and where Jonah was making a presentation to the room. Very helpful. So really cool for us to be able to sit down now today, though, in this format. So with the introductions having been made, everybody being encouraged to go watch people's origin story. Everybody else has been here at a round table before. Let's run through a drill together. So that's not a new word for Will, but the context today is going to be with this book. So Rob, if you would, pick a number between 3 and 86.
Let's do 16.
16. David, you are up, sir. Let's all go to page 16 and hear what David is going to share with us today. When I feel so inclined, I like to give a little context, a few seconds here. So we're right in the middle of the grocery store. This is actually the back end of the grocery store, page 16. It's a famous part, maybe an infamous part of Nelson's book, depending on who you ask, because of course in general, people are thinking, okay, this is a personal finance book, and yet there are these themes about power plants and airplanes and grocery stores, stuff like that. But it's actually a foundational piece of understanding the concept, in my opinion. All right, so David, I bought you a few seconds. I wonder what sticks out to you that you could share for the good of the group from page 16, sir.
So what strikes me, and my book is all marked up here, is the idea that uh, your infinite banking system should be mindful of, again, the grocery store story of not stealing the peas, and what that means for, in simple terms, is that you want to pay for you want to pay you want to make sure that you're paying for the goods that you're taking from your system, which means, i.e., mostly paying back loans. But what strikes me from a business standpoint, because we were all when people open up these policies, they are literally going into business with the carrier. And from a profitability standpoint, think about the grocery store and as a equal idea of a business that we all have for ourselves with our RBC policy, and the profitability of that business, if we should sell it, which is the last paragraph, which is when you want to sell your business some years later, is you want to make sure that you have the cleanest balance sheet to present to somebody else. So that means the acronym of you're not stealing the peas and paying back loans is that you want a clean balance sheet that has the greatest profitability, and you don't want a drag of debt or loans, meaning paying back, and don't steal the peas from yourself. So that's what strikes me from this page, from a overall IBC principle standpoint, which is number 4.
Fantastic. Okay, so I see a few entry points. Who wants to jump in on something that they were exposed to from David right there?
I've got something to say. I think maybe because I started the infinite banking concept when I was a little bit younger than the average person, possibly. But that very last paragraph, it starts with when you sell your business some years later. And it probably wasn't until this year, all jokes aside, where I really wrapped my brain around that. The whole point and the purpose is actually of a business is actually to do the business while you're young, while you're active, while you've got the energy, and then to not have to do it when you're older. And it took me a long time just, and again, it's just because it's like, oh, if I'm 22 when I started infinite banking, 25, 28, 30, I'm just not thinking about it. I'm like, we're here and this is what we're doing and we're working. And I read a book earlier this month, actually. I've read it twice, but it's called Die with Zero, and this book also harped on that. The whole point of earning was to use the earnings to do the things that you actually wanted to do. Spend time with your family, have experiences, give it away, that sort of thing. And so when I read page 16 and it says, basically, I'm summarizing now, but the whole point is to build up your business so you can then sell or step away. That really speaks to me because I'm like, oh, you know what? That is the whole point. The whole point is to go as hard as I can, as aggressive as I can, without giving up too much and not being around for family and friends and all that stuff, right? But to build it up and then do what you want with it at that point. But it wasn't actually to always build it up, right? At some point, you're going to want to take a step back. So I really have related to that just recently because of some other reading that I've been doing. But that one stuck out to me because up until this point, I kind of glanced over that part, like, oh, keep moving. I'll talk about repayment or charge an extra instead of something like, no, the whole point is to do it now so you don't have to do it later.
And the real life context for you, John, is that you did personally see infinite banking in your 20s, which is not necessarily, because we work with folks now that they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. So it's good to have that perspective and that view. Okay, I saw another couple of things because of what Jonah's added. Did anybody else see something that you want to jump in on?
I think for a lot of people who maybe are hearing about this, maybe they're not business owners, they're not thinking about selling a business. A way to tie that in is later chapters, the even distribution of age classes, the passing this system on to your future generations. That is passing on the business for your to your children. We're the patriarchs of our family economy in creating this for them. It's the second to last paragraph however you and your family are captive customers, your kids, your grandkids, your cousins, coming to you for the financing for their life. And that money is kept in your family's economy forever, building that business that then goes to your future generations.
I'm glad you brought that one up, Will, because while David was talking earlier, I thought about a conversation that I had with a prospective client who was trying to wrap her mind around what significant premiums to her might look like later in life. There's some runway for them, her and her husband, between now and there could be those active years like Jonah was talking about. They're actively capitalizing and using this family banking system of whole life policies for their intended purpose, but wrapping her mind around, well, how am I covering premiums in the future then? If I start with some significant premiums, what does that look like back here? And that was where I stepped in and say, well, don't you have 3 children? Don't each of those households probably have 2 cars apiece? I mean, how quickly would you like to build up to, if we just use cars as an example, financing up to 6 vehicles in your household? That's a good bit of cash flow coming and going for you passively. I mean, are those premiums really having to come out of pocket even at that point? You know, so you're still actively in that owner position of that business at that point, that family banking business, but it's not so active like Jonah was describing. Those are just checks coming in every month because of what you started. So super neat. Anything else sticking out to you guys so far?
Yeah, I'll jump in here too. So I think one thing that stands out is particularly for people reading this maybe the first time or becoming a little bit more familiar with it, when they see the impact of actually, paying through the front door versus the back, I think that's the part that stands out to me in this section. It's the what is it, the third paragraph, last sentence, where it says, just consider, your wife steals 1 can of peas, you have to sell 20 to make up for it. So you have this, and that's the part that I think a lot of people don't grasp onto, that maybe have not been in business or are not business owners, but to make up for that cost of something going out the back door, meaning you're not repaying loans or you're not properly capitalizing your system, you're ending up in this position where now you're having to play catch up just because you wanted to have it be a little easier on yourself, but not realizing like you are actually stealing from the business. And that's a tough one for a lot of people to grasp onto, because they think about it as, let's say, for example, somebody has a coffee shop and it's a lower cost item, but if somebody's constantly cycling through and it's, 2 people here, 4 people there, and they're constantly taking coffee out of the business, that's reducing the inventory. It's reducing the profitability of all the other goods in that store. And it's just one of those things that a lot of times people are not thinking about consciously. And I think that's the part that a lot of people are like, well, wait a second, you're telling me I should pay full price, and not only pay full price because I'm a captive customer, I should try to pay more. Like that doesn't click for a lot of people, but what they need to understand is just how important that is for driving the profitability of the company, the business, and obviously your banking system here, and then also the long-term viability of it when you do want to eventually, sell the business, so to speak.
Yeah. So in real life, for that owner, right, if they're going to get a $4.50 cup of coffee from their place, they own it. They could just get the cup of coffee, right? And I'm actually thinking of another client of mine that had a different type of store that was in addition to a different business run, and for her it was soda or whatever. But the proper mindset here as infinite bankers would be to say, well, I'm going to pay $5. Not only am I going to pay full price, but it's just to give one real life example to that picture that you're painting. Yeah, I'm not going to just pay, I'm going to round up $5 instead of the $4.50 for that cup of coffee. I love it. Okay. All right. Well, What you
I
got,
can just hear
Brandon?
I can just hear Rob's wife, going, "Hey, look, this is our business, our store. You're going to charge me extra." I think maybe there's some marriage counseling that's going to probably crop up after a little bit of that. Um,
Well, this is a guys only conversation, so this is our chance to field some things. Okay, we
well, that's the way my wife would be, anyways. I don't know, like, why are you charging me more than you're charging everybody else? Like, we're gonna have to talk. Um,
Because you love
at the
her more.
beginning, you guys started at the bottom of that page, and at the beginning of that page, it's coming off of the previous page talking about the steam engine, right? And how at 210 degrees, nothing's really happening, and then you get past 212 degrees, and then it makes all the difference in the world, right? It moves a huge train that's pulling a bunch of cargo and this and that. And so, like, you look back at the grocery store example, which I think a lot of people read this book and they're like, what in the heck is he talking about grocery stores and peas for, right? But you guys hit it well. Like, we're talking about building a business and what it takes to get there, right? And once we get past that certain point in the business, things are running well, and now it's getting profitable, and it's just kind of that upward momentum. And a similar thing, happens in a policy that's well designed after, several years of capitalization and taking good care of it. And then all of a sudden, the dividends and the interest and the compounding that's starting to happen while you're still utilizing it to pay for the things that you're going to pay for anyway in your life. It's an upward compounding momentum effect, and it's a beautiful thing and a powerful thing to be able to take that control back into the individual's life through this tool. So that section in that chapter, to me, like, it took a while as well for me to like really realize the imagery and stuff that Nelson's using to put his point to drive his point home. So that one stood out to me as you guys were talking about this section.
I'll tell you what I actually like is that the principles that we're talking through here around the grocery store and producing steam and those types of things, before you even add what that tactically looks like if you're an individual who's learning about infinite banking and you're going out and buying whole life insurance that's been properly designed for using as this type of business. Actually, though, if you just stay on the principles and just have that mindset and approach to life, to your, whether it's your household or if you do already have a traditional business, if you just apply these principles to that business, you're going to be more profitable. But then if you actually do infinite banking, then of course you're just completely changing the scale of what's going to be affected overall. What you got, David?
And what struck me with everything you guys are talking about is, again, this idea from the fact that this is a business, and if you're not a good steward, that your business is at stake. Like, this is a big deal. Like, this is, your store and your family's legacy. And and again, we all learn things by, like, and Jesse, thank you for having me read this and reference this page. Is I love this idea where he talks about clipping larger coupons in retirement, and that dovetails into what Brandon's talking about right before with the steam engine, and then the compounding of interest, where if you are properly following these principles, you're gonna reap the harvest in retirement with larger
Mm-hmm.
coupons, as per a grocery store analogy, where
Mm-hmm.
I love that interplay there with the whole grocery store mentality.
Well, listen, I appreciate you. Not everybody's thankful to be voluntold to take a section of a book and talk about it impromptu. So how about you do this then, David? You pick our next number. You pick us a number between 3 and 86, please.
67.
Okay, Jonah, you heard it. 67 to you, please, sir.
67. Okay, we are looking at the second
Oh,
page of the retirement trap.
How about that? He was just talking about retirement and that stage, and then now here we are on it.
Yep. Well, okay, so I'm gonna do the
Yes,
same
this is
thing. I'm gonna
him.
start at the bottom again, because those are the ones that stick out to me, right? I see the 7 deadly sins, and well, the 14 points and the 7 deadly sins, page 67 on the right-hand side, for those of you who are following along or paying attention or haven't read it yet or whatever it is, right, out there. And the first one, even of the 7 deadly sins, speaks to me: the lack of consistency of purpose. And I, again, as a younger guy, probably just didn't spend a lot of time thinking that that was important. I mean, that's just it's not that I didn't know that having a purpose, having consistency in purpose was important. It's not that I didn't know it. It's not that I didn't, if you would have asked me, say that I have a purpose or this is what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, I just didn't put any emphasis on the importance of it. And so when I look at this, I go, yeah, these are so important. If you base, similar to what you said on the last page, Jesse, if you base your lifestyle on these principles, the difference is immense, not just in your financial space, but also in your personal relationships, also in your religious beliefs. I mean, that's how this works. And I never kind of equated one area of life to another area. I know I've heard the sayings. You guys have heard it. You know, how you do anything is how you do everything. I've heard it too. I never let it saturate my brain. And as I got older, I started to realize, and again, the reason I keep saying that, just for you guys on this call, I've been able to practice infinite banking for a decade now, literally. And so I've got like all of the steps of the learning process up to this point. I can't speak for what it looks like at 15 years or 20 years. I haven't gotten there yet. But for the first 10, I can absolutely speak on like knowing, being very excited, but knowing nothing, learning more and going, oops, I did that completely wrong. Learning enough and seeing your policy start to actually do what you kind of anticipated or what people told you was possible, but you had never experienced it. Seeing that, helping lots of people along the way, getting to a point now, recently where like, being able to make different decisions than I would have ever been able to make before. Not that they're like, these novel decisions, but just should I do this? Can I do this based on personal financing as opposed to just like I have to, there's a need, stuff like that. And so when I look at something like, hey, you've got to have a consistency of purpose, you need to emphasize um, well, sorry, the opposite, right, of the seven deadly sins. You need to have consistency of purpose. Or sin number two, you should probably look for long-term profits as opposed to doing short-term, and right? When I look at those things, I go, that is so important. And that's exactly what I've realized over a decade, that I had different mentality, different mindset. This is not how I do things, and it has just slowly but surely shifted my vision. And that's one of the things that stands out to me. Like, yeah, when I talk to people almost every single day, every other day, I talk to somebody and I'm like, some of the things that come out of their mouth are exactly these seven deadly sins. And it's like, that is so costly to your financial life. And it's not their fault. They might not have known, but it's almost like if you've been doing it for 20 or 30 or 40 years, and now you're realizing, it's like, well, yeah, that they set us up. They set us up for that sort of lifestyle, that sort of, I might call it failure. That might be a harsh word, but we've been set up to think that way. So that's one of the things that jumps out to me.
Okay, I'm going to have a question for the group, but I want everybody, while it's fresh, what you just delivered, to be able to jump in on something that stuck out to you. So what stuck out to you that you want to talk on?
Yeah, one thing I heard Jonah say without necessarily saying it, which I think was awesome, was instituting on the job training. And he learned it by going through the process, all these different steps that, he's been able to do now, having been doing it for over a decade. That's something that we have to keep in mind when we're trying something new. Obviously, we have to adopt a new philosophy, number two. But then it's learning that process, having somebody along to be able to work with alongside you to help you through the process and train the right way through learning how to institute this concept in your own life. So those two things kind of jumped out to me, as with what Jonah was saying there.
And if I may, Jesse, this idea of not emphasizing short-term profits and immediate dividends, what comes to my mind is this idea of thinking long-term, because a lot of people come and we educate them about how, yes, there are premium payments that need to be made to be able to perpetuate the system. And what we need to keep in mind is having, as we're rethinking people's thinking, it's reorienting because we do live admittedly in a short-term mindset world. And the idea of one deadly sin being the short-term thinking or short-term profits, I equate that to the short-term thinking. So capitalizing your system and having that, have it be, build a foundation for it. That's what comes to me in looking at the bottom of this page. And point number 2.
I love it. So can I ask y'all my question then that Jonah made me? I was in a family meeting one time. So I asked my family, my at-large family, this question, and I want to ask y'all. It's been some years since I asked them this, so I'm curious what you might say. Which do you think, and this goes back to what Jonah's point was from page 67, which was the lack of that constancy of purpose, okay? Purpose. I asked my family, what's more important? And I'm asking y'all, unity or vision? Vision or unity?
That's loaded. That's loaded, Jesse. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when you said it, my initial reaction was unity. That's my initial reaction, thinking, well, you can't get anywhere. It doesn't matter who has the vision. If you've got no unity, you're not accomplishing that thing. And that's the first thing that I thought. And then my brain started working and I realized maybe I shouldn't open my mouth and say something that fast, even though I did it anyway. So I'm gonna stop talking now and go back to think.
So okay, I appreciate that you put out the impulse answer for sure. Okay, did anybody else? And are you willing to share your impulse answer or your final answer? Either one.
Unity comes to mind. Sorry.
Okay, David said unity. Will said vision.
Where are you going if you don't have vision? And how are you going to build that unity if you don't have the vision to get people to see the same place that you're going?
Okay. I'll just go ahead and jump in. And I think where I'm at is what Will communicated. I believe that we're all realizing some logic there. But I also feel like unity has a strong, impulsive, initial pull on us. But what I tried to communicate to my family and where my thinking is right now, and y'all check me on this, as I haven't thought about this in years, okay? What does it matter if we're all in the same boat? Let's say we decide in our unity, we get in the same boat. We want to be together. We even want to row together. We don't want to be having discord. We can go faster if we stroke together, right? Synchronized, okay? Efforts. But have we decided where we're going in this unified manner? Have we made a conscious decision of the direction? What if we wanted to go that way, but we're unified, in going this way because we didn't even take the time to steer in the direction, that we want to go in. And Scripture, talks about, say, the power of the tongue. The power of the tongue kind of directs the whole body. But check me on my thinking through that while I let somebody in here. Actually, got another fellow joining the group. I'm really excited about that. What's up, Jonathan? How are you this morning? I see you. Can you see me and hear me, sir? Beautiful. You came in at a good time. I didn't hear you answer right there. I saw you. Okay, but you're muted probably. Feel free to unmute.
Yeah, I got you. I had to change some settings around, but good morning, everybody.
I love it. So I just delivered a loaded question randomly, Jonathan. I didn't know that I was going to, and I was asking everybody about which is more important, unity or vision. So I know it's on the spot. I haven't even given an introduction to you yet. Okay, I appreciate that face that you just made. Would you give me your impulse answer of what you think is more important, unity or vision?
Just my impulse right off the spot, it would have to be vision, because the Bible says, without vision, the people will perish.
Okay.
So that would be my number one, just instant response right there. I think unity is I'm not so much a this or that. I'm more of this and that type of person. I believe both of those could go hand in hand. But since you asked, I answered, right?
I love it. I love that you did. All right, Brandon, you heard the question, I think, but I haven't come to you yet. We're picking between, and I can appreciate what Jonathan's saying there, but give me your impulse answer first. Unity or vision? Which are you prioritizing?
Yeah, I mean, without unity, I feel like you can't get to the vision. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever heard about leading a horse to water, but you can't make them drink? So to me, that's kind of what was kicking up in my head, gut reaction response.
Well, see, okay, I'm going to question your Texas theology there, or your philosophy, or whatever we're going to call it. Aren't you painting a vision by placing the horse in front of the water where it can see what's possible and available? I don't know. I'm already entrenched. I think y'all are already seeing that I'm on the vision bandwagon. Some of these other guys heard me explain something a second ago that not everybody got to hear yet. But the analogy that I gave was, and I gave this in a family meeting, if you're in a boat with your family, you decide to get together, you're unified. Even if you decide to stroke together, you're going to move faster if we're unified in our movements, right? But doesn't it matter what direction that you're pointed in? That's where I'm currently at. Has anybody else had any follow-up thoughts on that? And here's the context. Let me give the context one more time for everybody that's listening in, for everybody that's here. We're on page 67 in the Becoming Your Own Banker book, where Nelson is listing something very important. Jonah was just speaking on the importance of constancy, of consistency, of purpose. So that's where I got struck by the idea of vision, because having a vision for yourself, that gives you the purpose, Yeah, any further revelations for anybody? I'd be interested to hear how you've processed through your own initial answer versus maybe where we're at in the conversation now.
In the process of training for my first 50K, and I am really, really diligent about putting in the work, right? I'm a worker, but what I was finding out was me going out without a plan, just running, I wasn't seeing any gains. And it wasn't until I downloaded an app on my phone and strategically put a plan in front of me to where I actually am starting to see gains. And so I think I'm probably, after the 5 or so minutes that I've sat here since you asked that question, I'm still more on the page of the vision process as opposed to unity. I think if you have the right vision, what is it they say? When the student's ready, the teacher will appear. It doesn't happen, the opposite of that. And so I think if you have the vision in place, the unity will be there, because the people that God will put in your life will actually be there to be unified. You're not, if you're a believer, and I'm assuming we're all believers here, the gospel, number one, is offensive. And so we're never going to be unified. If you're looking for unity, you're in the wrong place, because the gospel is offensive. And so I say it like this: I'm not for everybody, right? But if I know where I'm going and I have a plan to get there, I'm going to get there.
I love it. So I want to hear from Jonah, because he gave us the very first. He put himself out there, but I also want to give David a chance here, maybe just because I think David's mentality is already saying, "Oh, I got a fellow endurance athlete, right? I'm ready to go ditch my tie now and take off on a run." So yeah, David's all right. So you just talk for yourself, David.
Wait, Jonah or me?
You, David. Just because Jonathan brought up about a 50K, I of course thought of you as well.
I appreciate remembering that. So yeah, Jonathan, kudos to you, by the way. I'm a fellow endurance athlete, and you're definitely you hit on it very very well, that if we don't have a training plan that we're following, and we're just going to gut it out on our own, we're not going to get there without a plan. I mean, you have to know when to rest. You have to know when to push it. You have to know nutrition. You have to have something mapped out. And again, the great analogy of, Nelson Nash has mapped out a strategy for everyone to follow. Again, analogous to Jonathan or anyone else that does something that is out of the ordinary, that doing a 50K is definitely out of the ordinary, is that it requires a vision and a purpose and a roadmap. And I think, Jonathan, that's what you're talking about. Like, without a roadmap, you're only going to get so far. Like, it's like being in the desert and not having some place where you can get out of the desert because there's water somewhere, and unless someone points it in your direction, you're just going to go in circles, and unfortunately, you're going to die of dehydration.
I love it. All right, Jonah, anything you want to say right there to kind of come back from where you first started? I'm curious about your evolution of thought.
Me?
Yeah.
Me? Well, first off, I think that all of these guys had amazing answers. I really do. I relate a lot to what's being said. However, here's my 2 cents for everyone who's out there paying attention and watching. First off, I think Jesse set us up because he asked which one's more important, and they're both important. You've got to have them both, right? So we're going back and forth because it was a loaded question. However, I'm going to stay with unity, and the reason I'm staying with unity is because unity is harder, and that's my 2 cents. I'd rather have unity, just like Jonathan said. He said, hey, having unity, even on something like the gospel or what we talk about all the time in finance, it's offensive to some people. You can't talk to someone who spent 20 or 30 or 40 years of their life doing something one direction and saying, oh, yeah, you probably should have done it the other direction, and not work up some sort of emotion. So here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you can have one without the other. I really don't think you can. Your boat example, Jesse, is amazing. If we're all rowing together, but we're going the wrong direction or the wrong way because there was no vision, then that's trash. But if we have vision of where we want to go on the island and no one can row together, that's also trash. We don't want either of those. But I think unity's harder. It is harder to get a group of 5 people, 10 people, 1,000 people, 5,000 people together, all going the same direction. And so in my mind, if you're saying which one's more important, I kind of interpreted that question as which one would I rather have? And I'd rather have the communal group, the unity, all going the same direction, and then cross my fingers and pray that somebody can help us go the right direction. But I think I'd rather have the big group go in the right direction. So anyway, I'm sticking with my answer because of those thoughts.
I love it, and I love the value that you brought up. I had not thought about which might be more difficult, because I actually do think that it can be easy for somebody to stick their hand up and say, hey, I think we ought to go that way. That's a vision, and it's done. As long as we all agree and do that harder part of working together, if we decide that that's a good direction and that we want to go together and that all that kind of stuff. So I've not thought about that. That's super valuable. All right, so thanks for letting me ask my loaded question. I do think that both are super important. So here's where we're at in the conversation as a whole. Let me give time for one more introduction, and then I'm gonna pivot. We tackled one of the things that I knew that I wanted to this morning. Thank y'all. I got more out of it than I could have anticipated. But Jonathan, you, like another couple of guys on here today, this is their first time, as well as yours, being in a round table. So I've already encouraged everybody to watch everybody else's one-on-one interview with me on my channel, and some of those haven't even been released yet. But this is also your first time here at the round table. So if you would give a quick bio to everybody, who you are, where you're from.
For sure. Appreciate that. So guys, nice to meet you. I'm actually honored to be on here with you guys today. Jesse and I, we've known each other, and I guess even Jonah, I've known Jonah for quite a while as well. I'm 48 years old. I live in a small community in the upstate area of South Carolina called Blue Ridge. If you tried to look it up on a map, you wouldn't find it. It's a figment of your imagination. It's where about 5 different counties kind of merge together. I always, when I speak in front of people, I always ask them, I say, how many people know where Blue Ridge, South Carolina is? And you always have a few people that raise their hands, and I go, great, those are the rednecks that are in the room. It's in the country, y'all. And so I talk, I speak 2 different languages. I'm bilingual. I speak English, and I also speak redneck. So for most people that hear me speak, it takes them a few minutes to start to understand what I'm saying, because I say words like y'all and your mama, and how y'all doing? Did you eat yet? No, do you want to? Stuff like that. So being where I'm from, I love where I'm from. But at the same time, also, from an entrepreneur standpoint, I understood that I needed to be able to get outside of my community and understand what things are out there. So at a very early age, I was very blessed to have a person in my life that exposed me to entrepreneurship. And ever since I was 19 years old, I've owned a business in some way, shape, or form or fashion. And with that being said, not all of that has been, sunshine and rainbows. It's been a difficult journey. And I'm very, very fortunate now that I'm a little bit older to start to understand and appreciate the process a whole lot more now than when I did when I was younger, because I was that person that always wore, how hard I worked as like a badge of honor on my sleeve. I always like to tell people how hard I'm working, which was the truth, because where I'm from, you got to work hard. It doesn't matter who you are, you work hard. And so I was introduced to the financial services industry about 16 years ago now, and didn't jump into the business full time, but that's where God has led us, into the financial services space. So I've been doing that full time now for a little over 5 years, and I've been married for 28 years, 28. Oh my goodness, I'd get in trouble if my wife was here. It's either 28 or 29. I always say almost 30, right? I've been married for almost 30 years to my wife. We met in church when she walked into to Harmony Fellowship Church in Greer, South Carolina. I knew right then and there, I was 16 years old. I knew right then and there that I loved that woman. It took me 3 years to convince her of that, but here we are now, 2 kids later. Both of our kids graduated Clemson University with agribusiness degrees from that university. I've got 1 grandson. It's the reason why I was a little bit late today. Today was my day to get to watch him this morning. So super excited about that. So that's a 10,000 foot view of who I am, what we do. We're very passionate about several things. Number one is family. If you're around me long enough, and well, I wouldn't even say long enough, but if you're around me in any short period of time, you're going to hear me talk about my family. You're going to hear me talk about my church. We serve as connections pastors at our church at New Hope Freedom Church in Greer, South Carolina. And you're also going to know that I love the Tigers, both Clemson and Blue Ridge Tigers. So those 3 things pretty much kind of define our world. And I love people. God's really placed people on my heart. I love meeting all kinds of people. I love hearing people's thoughts and ideas. And like I said, I'm at that age now to where I know I don't know everything. And I appreciate you inviting me on.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure's mine, and I love that we can all do this business, but that we've all committed some time to be able to come together in this format too, with 50K races over here, and our triathlons over there, and our baby pickups and grandbaby watches and everything else. Brandon doing other business. Will, military. I love it. So a big theme that I wanted to get into today, guys, is this is a men's only conversation, obviously. If you find these videos helpful along your infinite banking journey, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Live and leave a lasting legacy.